using Microsoft Excel. So please confirm if you can hear my voice before I get started. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I see Bill Kisu can hear, Adetitu can also hear me. Obviously, everyone should be able to hear my voice. So we're going to get started already. We continue from where we stopped in the last class. Welcome, Chiamaka. Thanks also for confirming that you can hear my voice. I see every other person there, Akin, Caesar. Welcome to this class. Am I missing anyone? Akin, Caesar, Adetitu, Bilkisu, and Chiamaka. These are the people that are currently online. I'm sure the others will join us as we progress. So let's get started with today's class. In the previous class, we looked into uh, the introduction, and then we talked about functions and the formulas in Microsoft Excel. And because of doing that, I introduced you to certain functions that will come in very handy when you are doing what is called descriptive analysis in data analysis. So we saw the sum, the count, the max, the mean, and in the course of doing that, we made use of certain functions like the mean function, the max function, the count function, and a couple of other functions that, of course, the sum function and the average function also was put to use in that class. Now, in today's class, we will try to expatiate on what we started already with more emphasis on how to work with a couple of more functions, text functions and number functions. But I will not get into that without talking about a very important part in data analysis, especially using Microsoft Excel, which is, of course, referencing. How do you reference cells in Excel? How do you point to where you want to refer to? That's exactly what we're talking about. And when you talk about referencing in Excel, because this is what I'll be talking about before we advance into other formulas. So I'll just create a new sheet to discuss this very interesting topic. I'll create a new sheet right now and rename it referencing. Okay. Referencing. And then we'll make it possible. So I'm just going to do some merge and center around here. And then I'll talk about that before we advance. We also saw in the last class how to select the cells you want to work on, how to highlight cells and all that. We saw how to use our short keys on keyboards. And of course, how you can do that by clicking on what you want to or dragging through the area. I said we'll be talking about referencing. In Excel. First, there are majorly two kinds or two ways. Kindly remember to share your screen. I don't know if my screen is not shared till now. Is my screen not shared? I thought I shared it already.
It's shared, it's shared.
Okay. So I don't think someone can see. Someone said, kindly remember to share your screen. That's Adetitu, right? You can see my screen. The relative referencing and absolute referencing. These are the two forms of referencing you will have in Excel. So the first and the second in no particular order. I just wanted to, for purpose of discussing it. Okay, so we can see my screen, then we're good. I'm going to continue with the class and as much as possible, try to explain this so that we will all be carried along and everyone can understand. I will continue to stress the key things that are important when you're learning any skill in a technical area like this. You learn by understanding concepts. You don't learn by cramming. So try as much as possible to pay attention to the key things. You could have a little paper around and a pen, or you should have a book, in fact, so you don't just throw the paper away later on. Have something you can, okay, thank you, Akin, for confirming that. Make sure that you try to have something on the side, like a paper, a book, or something that help you always be able to understand what is going on in the course of the learning. Now, why do we need to learn referencing in Microsoft Excel? While we work with formulas or functions in Excel, we will refer to cells and or range of cells. And for us to be able to effectively take charge of this software, we need to know the rules that guides how we can refer to them, the methods of referring to them, and the implication of if you refer to it like this, and if you don't refer to it like this. Now, let me do something just to exemplify what I'm talking about. I'll start with relative referencing. By default, when you're working in Microsoft Excel, let me color relative referencing with the color blue, and I'll color absolute referencing with the color green. Okay, so now I'm talking relative. I'll color the cell field with green, and then I'll make the text, the font color. We'll come to formatting shortly. When we get there, I'll shed more light on what I'm doing right now, because I'm assuming we don't know anything at all about Excel. The whole idea is to take her from 0 to hero in Excel, okay? So now, relative referencing means you are referring to a cell or the content of a cell with reference to positioning. I mean, as you're making actions somewhere else, the actions of, I mean, the movement of your mouse or the movement of your movement across other cells could influence the way you're referring to that one that you're talking to. Let's put it in practice. It becomes a lot easier to talk about then when I put it in practice. Just a moment. So how do I do that? How do I ensure that works so that we can all understand that? Just a moment, please. I need to put my phone on silence so that it doesn't disturb my class. So take, for instance, you have something like this. You have pupils, you have age, and you have maybe something like country. So you have something, let me just put five of them there. So you have John, you have Musa, you have Peters, you have Sarah, and you also have, let's see, Dorcas, okay? And for the ages, you have some like 11, you have 12, you have 13. That can't be a pupil anymore, but no problem. You have 6, and then you also have 5 here. And the country, respectively, you put some Nigeria there. You can put Ghana. You can put another Nigerian there. Let's bring in someone from Canada. And then, of course, we have UK. Now, these are the pupils I have here. We have on this column, I have their ages, and here we have country. If I want to refer to, let's say I want to reference a particular pupil, John, here. Let's say, for instance, for whatever reason, I want to say, I want to say something like, or for whatever reason, I just want to refer to this cell. If I put my equal sign and I click on John, or I mention the name of the cell that John is written on, what I'm doing is I'm referencing the cell John and trying to say what is showing on John should start showing here. I want to see the value in the cell John. What is the name of that cell? By clicking on it, we will automatically see the name of that cell there, which is F8. I should zoom in so that we can have a better view of our screen. If I click enter now on my keyboard, technically, John will start showing there. I'm trying to zoom in so we can have a better view of what I'm doing. Some of you might be viewing this from your phones. I don't know. It's possible. Some people are using their phones to view this class. Now, I have referenced this. From here, I have referenced this cell that contains John. And I have referenced it relatively. This is what is called relative referencing. Why? Why is it referred to as relative referencing? How do you differentiate it and all that? We'll understand that shortly. Now, why I said I've referenced this relatively is because now I'm here on this cell M8. This is my active cell. That is a cell that is clicked right now. It's M8. However, the content of my active cell is not anything I've typed, but it's a reference to the content of cell F8, which is the cell that has John. Now watch something. If I drag down or I fill down, as the case may be, or if I copy the instructions I've been given here all the way down, what I'll be telling Excel is, please, relative to my movement, or as I'm copying all the way down, please increase or move along also the points or the place I am pointing to. I want you to also refer to it. So if I started from F8, John is on F8. As I'm coming down, it should go to F9, which is Musa, F10, which is Peters, F11, which is Sarah, and of course, F12, which is Dorcas. And by dragging down, holding that little node, let me undo that and point us to that again. Look at this little box there. Let's actually zoom in further so we can see it closely. I want us to have a very close view of this thing. Now, so let's do it again. If I drag down, click on that little node and drag all the way down to this point. What I have done is, of course, I referred to one first, and when I filled all the way down, at this point, it changed to F9. I started by referencing F8. At this point, I put equal to, then I clicked F8. Then the content of F8, which is John, started showing here. At this point, just by dragging down now, I dragged all the way down. I said, Excel, please, I need all the other informations going all the way down. That is possible because the kind of referencing I'm doing is relative to the position of my active cell or the position I'm dragging through downward. That is only possible because what we are doing at that point is relative referencing. That is a default way Excel will treat whatever it is you are trying to refer to. If you're referring to something in Excel, by default, Excel will take care of it based on relative referencing. Now, if this is relatively referenced, what then is the difference? Or how do I tell? Sometimes there are certain things that the way to appreciate them is to know the other thing. So you can know, okay, this one is like this. Okay, so what's the big deal about it? You will know the big deal about it when you appreciate how another term that works around the same principle differs from that one. So let me talk about this other one. Absolute, just by the side. So similarly, if I want to refer to another cell, I want to refer to that same cell. No, let's do that same cell this time. I'll put the equal sign, and of course, I'll click on John. Now, absolute referencing means I want Excel to lock the values or to lock the reference just to that place so that even if I'm copying or I'm dragging down, what I'm telling Excel is, please, you should always maintain that place. You should always maintain that point I am referring to. Absolute means it should not change. It should remain constant. It is locked. So this word not changing, constant, locked to that figure or to that particular cell, regardless of how I copy and paste the content of that place, it will always remain the same. Let's see what I mean now. So, but to make something absolutely referenced, you need to put the dollar sign before the column reference, and of course the row reference. If you recall in the last class, I said a cell is identified by the column and the row that, of course, formed it, that came together to form it. Think of the column maybe as the husband and the row as the wife, and the child of this union is a cell. So this cell we're currently on now, we're able to know the name of this cell is a product of L. This is a product of what? L and 8. L and, of course, 8. Now let's continue. On L and 8, I am saying Excel, I want the value of what is on F8, but I want it absolutely referenced. So to do that, I will hold the shift and then put the $sign, hold the shift again, and of course put the $sign. That should be before, sorry, before the 8, you put the dollar. Before the F, you put the dollar. Before the 8, you put the dollar. Now, this thing I'm doing manually can also be done by you holding the function key on your keyboard and pressing F4. You know, the function key will allow you turn on the use of those function buttons that are at the top of your screen. The first row of your keyboard, did I say screen? Keyboard. The first row of your keyboard at the topmost part. If you notice, you see F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, all the way till you get to F12. So if you want to activate those buttons, those F, because if you notice on that key also, you have all kinds of other icons, including to decrease brightness and increase brightness, to increase volumes and reduce volume, as you have where you have F9 and F10. There you see reducing the volume of whatever it is you're listening to and increasing it on F11. But those icons are the main guys in charge of that keyboard, so to speak. You don't need to press anything to make them work. But if you want to activate the other functionalities that are associated with that button, of which you have all of the function keys F1 through F12, you need to press the Fn. You hold Fn down and press F4. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is, instead of manually going to type dollar behind F and dollar behind H, once you have clicked on a reference or you have typed a reference and you want to now tell Excel, please make it absolute. You can hold Fn and press F4 on your keyboard, and it will automatically make it absolute. And what is the basis for saying it's now absolute? How do you identify a cell that is absolutely referenced? The first is, you see the $sign before the column, and you also see another $sign before the row reference of that cell. There are situations where you could have a mixed referencing, where you will have one of them, either the column is not, the column is relative and the row is absolute. And of course, what would that mean? If column is relative, means there will be no dollar before F. But if the row is absolute, it means it will be $8 in that case. Let me hit the enter so that we can appreciate the difference. So I did something just now. I dragged down in the first case of relative. But if you notice in this second case, when I copy down, it maintains that information it got from the reference. At this point, I said F8. At this point, it still maintains the same F8. Here, it's also F8. It's also F8 here, and it's F8 here. But if you recall, at this point, when I put F8 without locking it, and I dragged all the way down, you notice that relative to the position that I'm dragging through or I'm filling down, whether I'm going right or left depends on the direction of the data that I'm moving, across or along. The data or the referencing changed as I was moving down. It started from F8, going down, it became F9, hence you have F9 there. It became F10, F11, and F12 for Dockers. And you see, naturally, it was picking the information on those respective reference, these being F8, F9, F10, F11, and F12. That's what happens when you're dealing with relative referencing. Relative referencing is colored green. So let me just color the damn thing green again. So we have everything just the way it should be. And the absolute referencing, we can do the same thing. Oh, relative is blue, sorry. If I have relative blue, why did I make this mistake here? Let's make sure we just color code it so that our learning can make a lot of sense. And then, of course, absolute would have the color green just for purpose of identification. So this is a classical example of relatively referenced cells. And of course, here we have another classical example of, this is absolutely referenced cells, I beg your pardon. And at this point, we'll be talking about relatively referenced cells. What is the difference? You see relative referencing, no dollar before F. That is the default. When you reference anything in Excel, it comes with relative referencing. But if you do, now look at this. If I click on this cell now and I copy, right click and copy. If I copy and put it anywhere in Excel, if I paste here, John will still appear there because it is copying everything there with John. It is copying, what I'm copying is the instruction that is on this cell, which is equal to $F $8. And that is technically saying, Excel, please reference or show us the value that is inside this cell called F8. That's what we're doing there. But if you see something now I'm going to do, if I go copy this other one, Control C, or right click and copy as the case may be. Okay, I've already done Control C, so let's still do copy there. Now go to that same place and paste, or go to anywhere and paste. You find out that something has changed relative to my movement from this point to this point. Excel assumed, because as I'm moving, see, as I'm moving, I moved from this point. I moved 1, 2, 3, 4 steps backward, 4 columns backward. We are on this column M right now. I moved 1, 2, 3, 4 columns backwards. Okay, so technically, Excel is going to interpret it that from this point where I'm copying John, which is what is being referenced there, I'm moving 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be giving me a reference around B. B what? B16. That is exactly the reason why if you click on this, you see B16. What it is doing, it is moving what I call it, in response to the how far you have gone away from the initial reference. It would factor that, and that would determine the new reference information there. So relative referencing, while you might think it's, well, then this is not making sense. I wanted it to be John, and I want John everywhere I go. Maybe I just want, if I want to copy the value of John, paste it. I want John. But what we're seeing now is looking like, then doesn't make sense. I mean, why then does it exist? Will it be useful in any situation? Of course. We're going to see scenarios where we'll put both of them to use, where you see relative referencing doing its job effectively, and absolute referencing also helping you do certain things effectively. And even maybe a mixed situation where you can understand how to combine relative referencing and absolute referencing. And what will that imply? It will imply that you're either locking the column and freeing the row. That is a mixed case. Where you have this one locked, meaning regardless of where I move, the column should remain constant, should remain absolute, should not change. That's what I've just done by putting that dollar before the B. The B, the alphabet or the characters, that is the identifier for columns. And of course, the numbers in any cell reference or in any name of any cell name, the number there is always pointing to the row reference of that particular cell. Like I said, it's the two components that came together to form it, the column and the row. So if you put a dollar before the column, or the B in this case, you are saying, I want to reference the column absolutely, while I leave the row to move relatively. And you know, relative movement means it moves with reference, or it moves as you move. it increases in count of its referencing, either on the column direction or on the row direction as you move. That is what relative referencing is about. But absolute means, hey, whatever I put there, even if I copy it and paste it anywhere, even if I copy it and paste it on another sheet, you should always take note of the fact that I am talking about this particular thing, and it should not change regardless of what happens. Relative referencing and absolute referencing could also come in handy when you're dealing with a range of cells. Okay, I hope the concept is clear to start before I continue. I hope the concept of relative and absolute referencing is clear before I take it a little further to talk about other very important, I call it mix into the matter. Referencing cells relatively, you know what that means. Referencing cell absolutely, you know what that means. What is the difference? The dollar signs. Dollar before the column, dollar before the row, ensures that the cell is locked. It ensures the referencing is locked. It's like saying, hey, I want to talk about Nigeria. Nigeria as a country for this guy. Okay, what if I wanted to copy the complete record or the observation? The observation in a data set is a complete record of a particular, or inside a complete record or a complete observation from the data set. Now, for some reasons, let me do that from here. Depends on what version of Office you're using also. This may not work if you're not using Office 2019 and above. Your reference might be a little faulty. I think you may not have the effect of spill, because I want to do something now. So I put my equal sign and I do this, and I say I want to reference this information. Musa is age 12, and then of course Ghana. This is not going to fit into one cell. So the effect of spill, the spill effect that comes when you're using Office 20, I think from 2019 upwards, you should be able to see that. Or you're using Office 365, the better for you. So for the purpose of this learning, I don't know if I mentioned that in the first class. I said you should try to make sure you have Office from 2019 upwards if you really want to fit into the class. If you notice what is showing here, I put the equal sign and I drag through here. What Excel is telling me is that, or the instruction I'm giving to Excel, which has been exemplified or represented by F9 column H9, is like saying, I want the information, all the information that are within this range of cells, F9 to H9. This is F9, this is G9, this is H9. So I'm saying between F9 to H9, I want to see the information. So if I hit enter now on the keyboard, what Excel has done is that Excel spilled or spread the information, of course. This will not work if you're not using Office 2019 and above. So you may maybe find some kind of error, or it might work. I don't know. If you have any lower version of Excel, you can try. I'm not so sure what will happen in that case. Now, but this is my point. This is where I did the referencing. The other two here are spill effects. This is where what we have here now is a relatively referenced cell range. So if I have referenced Musa this way and I drag down from here, I go a two-step downwards. Technically, I'm going to see Peters. You see now here I did F9 to H9. At this point, it's saying what? F10 to H10. And here is saying what? F11 to H11. That's what brought about all this. The information is not supposed to return one cell. The information that we're referring to, or the reference we're talking about, is a range of cells. But we gave that instruction here. And due to the spill, functionality in Excel, it's able to spill to other blank cells around that place to accommodate the data. Now, let me undo what I just did. Or better still, let's leave this and just call this relative referencing. This button here is to merge these cells. While I'm doing this, I'm trying to show you how to format also. If I write relative or reference, yes, relative referencing of cells in a range of cell range. Okay, now you notice that it's stretching into a couple of cells, which doesn't look good. So I can say, let me highlight just three. I can highlight three, then I merge and center, and I just expand from the top so that I can create enough space for it to fit in nicely there. Now, what I've done here is to reference range of cells relatively. I'll still stick with the color code I used earlier, just for purpose of us being able to always be in line with what we're talking about. So when you see relative referencing, anywhere you see me talking relative referencing, you'll see the blue thing. And when I'm talking absolute reference, like I want to exemplify here now, I put the equal sign, of course. I still do the same Musa thing. I think I should put that on the same line so that we can have everything there. So I'll use this cell. The current cell I'm on now is I15. So on cell I15, I put my equal sign and I want to reference the range. Musa through his age and his country. I'm still doing F9 to H9. But since I want to implement absolute referencing, which means this reference should be locked on that information I have gotten, on that data I have collected. It could be one cell, like we've seen here in the case of John, or it could be a range of cells, as we are seeing in the case of F9 to H9, which is, of course, all of the records or the observation of Musa from the data set that is containing information about pupils, their age, and their country. So to make this absolute, I would lock it by pressing Fn, F4, or because I want it to be as clear as possible, I don't want it to look too magical, I'm going to do it the manual way. So I will lock the F, and I will lock the 9, $F, $9. I'll also go forward and lock the H, and then I'll lock the 9. Okay? So with this, what I have done, I've said, make this referencing right now absolute. Now, with what I have done, if I drag down like I just did, what will happen? It's still going to be the same Musa and all of his information. Even if I choose to copy this, right click, copy, and paste it anywhere I like on this document. Maybe I'll go paste it there. Right click, paste. With my paste, just paste it. You notice it's still the same Musa 12 Ghana. What I have done and why this is working the way it is working, I just did the Control Z to remove that, is because I am implementing, regardless of how it is, regardless of the fact that it's range in this case, what I'm implementing is what we call absolute referencing. Let's write it out there. Okay, it's very important. You know, I take my time when I'm teaching basic concepts because the basis for complexity is the basics. Anything that, if you like, maybe some people are too in a haste to start doing incredible things, or they are too irritated to do basic things. They are impatient to learn basic concepts. They can't wait to already start creating super dashboards, to start doing incredible stuff, to start having things that people will see and say, wow. Every complex system you see is a culmination of different basic rules being obeyed. Every super, equipment, gadget, electronic software we're enjoying today is working because there are so many basic principles, simple principles, all wounded around themselves to allow for that system to work the way it is. Whether it's a vehicle, whether it's an aeroplane, like we saw the Wright brothers and a lot of other people who lost their lives testing how they could put some equipment that can fly. And today we enjoy the Boeing 737. We enjoy all kinds of products by plane makers. They are riding on the same aerodynamic principles that these men then discovered, but had not polished well. But if you see every success you enjoy, it has to be with a perfect understanding of the basics first, before you start thinking and dreaming about complexity. So if you are the type that is very impatient and does not like to understand the back and front of any basic thing, you are too interested in complex softwares, you're too interested in this, if you want to go to know this one, you want to know that one. Some people, the moment they want to learn, I'm sure before they even landed on this advert, they thought of data analysis and they started looking for where they wrote Python first. You want to go fight with Python, and you've not fought with a simple cell, yes. You get mauled by the Python, most likely. So, back to what we're saying. It's a very simple concept. And if you understand what I have just done now, absolute equal to put $ before the column and before the row. Relative means leave it natural. And what is the implication? You know the implication now. As you're copying, relative means wherever I'm moving, that thing I'm referencing is going to be tagging along my direction of movement. So if I move 3 steps forward, it will also jump in reference 3 steps from where I am. At this point now where we have John is pointing to F8. If we move John, if I copy this and I paste it here at this point, what will it show? If I copy what is here, right click and I copy. I want some smart person to tell me. If I paste this thing here, because this is relatively referenced, if I paste it here, what will show on this P8?
H, letter H.
No. If I paste what I've copied now on cell P8, what value will show?
Letter H.
Letter 8?
Yeah. H.
Age?
Yeah.
No. I need some other person to try. I need some other person to try. I said in relative referencing, whatever movement you're making synchronizes with the reference that you have given to that place you are moving from. So I referenced F8 on M8. And now I want to move to P8 from M8. How many places have I moved? And so how will that affect the referencing that was F8 before?
Yeah, move 3 places.
Good. And if I move 3 places from where John is right now, if I move 3 places forward, counting from John, where will I be?
From the alphabet.
Are you sure?
It has to be H. That's my understanding for now.
Okay, nice try. Don't worry, mute your mic. Let me hear some other person. Who else is going to tell me where it will show in that place? In P. Okay, no, let me come to O. Let me make it closer. Let me make it closer. If I should put it here, what will show again? If I should put it on 08, if I copy this thing I've copied now, if I paste it here, it means the reference is what I have copied. What is showing right now is not because I typed anything. What is showing is because I referred to somewhere. I referred to a cell called what? F8. And now I'm copying that cell, which is relatively referencing F8. And it's going to move to this point. In the process of moving from what we've understood with relative referencing, the movements across the sheet or across the cells in Excel will also affect the referencing if you leave it relative. Now I have moved 2 places to the right. 1, 2. How will that influence the value that will show if I paste? And if I'm pasting, what will show there? Let's do that very quickly. Let's do this very quickly. what will show when I paste now?
Nigeria.
Smart one. That was a smart answer. You deserve a round of applause if you were in an open class. And that's exactly what we're talking about. At this point, thank you so much for that. Who said that Nigeria, by the way? I didn't see the name when you were talking. Is that Mr. Adetutu? Is that Mr. Adetutu? Your sound is always on and off. I don't know why. I'm sure you're talking, but we can't hear you now. Huh? Anyways, thank you very much for that very brilliant answer. At this point, it is F8. But at this point, it is what? H8. Because it moved where? 2 places. So 2 places from F8 is what? Nigeria. And this is happening because the reference at this point is what? Relative. You see, if there's one concept that is so important in becoming a pro with Microsoft Excel, it is this concept. It is the basis for everything. Most of the time, a lot of people want to start doing functions, doing this, doing that, but the rudiments, the key thing that will help you know how you work with the software to be able to know why something is not, let me see, make I try, maybe this thing is going to work. Let me just see if it works, let me try. No, you should be sure. If you understand what is going on in the mind of the software, because you understand the principles that governs the operations around the system. It's like coming into a system and watching a football match, loving the game, loving the way the fans are chanting and singing praises, loving the fact that the footballers are running on the pitch and the way they play. You've assessed yourself. You feel you're even stronger than most of the guys there. You put on a short knicker, walk to the place, we're able to convince the people, and they give you a place on the pitch. But yes, you can knock the ball left, right. Yes, you can even run faster than most of the guys. Perhaps you have more energy than them. But what is going to make you not be able to fit into that arrangement? The rules of the game. You don't even know why they are running, what formation, what is going on with the formation. Most likely, you could even go and start helping the goalkeeper. There's a possibility that you could say, I just feel like standing here. Maybe the goalkeeper will be pushing you. Please go forward, give me space. And you're like, no, I don't think you can stop the ball. I want to help you. You will most likely be acting without the right understanding of the principles that makes the game work the way it is. This one is the principle that surrounds how you're referencing the formulas you'll be using to work, every single thing you'll be using. These principles of relative and absolute reference will help you understand exactly how to refer to the data set, to a range of data, to a particular cell, to whatever you're doing while you're working in the software. And that's why I had to take my time to explain this concept before we start talking about other very exciting concepts that we'll learn in the course of this. I gave some assignments in the last class, and that I've not asked about them doesn't mean I've forgotten, but I need us to understand this. Let's continue to another very important area in the course of our learning, which is working with text and number functions. As far as referencing is concerned, if there's somebody that is still unclear about the concept of relative and absolute referencing, please do well to let us know. You don't know what it means by relative referencing, or you don't understand what absolute referencing is. Maybe when you watch the video, you would understand. And just in case, maybe some parts are still fuzzy, I am thinking it's like this. I want to be sure it is. Please don't hesitate to say something. And but if it's clear to you, we've seen relative. That is the default. Absolute means you put dollar before it, and which means, hey, make it constant. Anywhere I put it, let it still refer to that place. It should not all be altered as a result of movement. It should maintain that reference to that place I'm talking about. That is absolute referencing. The word absolute should cross your thoughts as constant. It should cross your thoughts as locking something. So when you think absolute, think constant, think locking. When you think relative, think movement with what I call it, with reference. Think of, moving relative to position. Think about as my position changes, so also it affects the position that I referred to earlier. This guy moves as I move. This guy changes as I change. That's what relative referencing means. Always understand concepts, and that will help you easily flow through every other thing we're going to be learning as we advance. I get into another part of it, which is very important. We have a lot to cover within the period, but my speed would only be possible when the underlying principles are well understood. It will be easier for you to follow through, even if you didn't understand everything I said in the class, but you understood the principles that we started with, which is the foundation. That's what I've been doing since the last class. And from now on, I'll begin to increase the speed a little more so that I'll be able to cover all what we need to learn in the course of our, course of this learning. And you will only understand things when the principles are very clear to you from the onset, okay? You don't learn by cramming. You're not supposed to cram anything here. Don't cram anything. Let me just write this, and text functions. Okay? Already, we've been looking at some functions. We've seen a couple of them in the last class where we did introduction to functions and formulas. We've just talked about referencing now. And then I'm getting back to functions. I'm coming back to functions because the bulk of things you'll be doing in Excel will be functions, working with functions, using functions to make things happen, you know? So let's see now. We'll talk about a couple of number functions. We've seen some of them already, and then I'll still just put them out there so that we can take them on one after the other very quickly, just to familiarize ourselves with it. You know how it is. I once told a particular batch, I don't think it's yours, I was talking to them and I said, when you want to learn how to drive a vehicle, I don't think your worry, well, most likely it could be your worry, but not the instructor's worry. To start teaching you what to do let's say a truck is coming from the left. I don't think they're going to be teaching you when you see a truck, especially the size is so big. It's coming from your left side, turn right. Or when it's coming from your right, turn left. I don't think that will form part of the instructions. They'll give you a general instruction on what to do, how to maintain the road rules, of course, how to ensure safety for yourself and not become also nuisance to other road users and all that. But your common sense is what will help you know that if this truck is coming, if I don't move away from there, or if I don't create enough allowance for this truck to pass, it will crush me. Or another road user is coming. If I don't do this, this is what will happen. That's what common sense comes to do. And common sense is what you naturally have. Every human has it. The abundance of it is what they call wisdom sometimes. And then, of course, your ability to use your common sense to navigate your way through solving problems is what will help you become a pro in the use of any solution, any software, any machine, or whatever it is in the world that you come across. Mine is to teach you the principles and show you a couple of examples that will open your mind to possibilities. Then later on, the common sense in you is what to say, since he did this and it worked, let me try this and see. Since he tried this and it worked like this, what if I change this? That's the way to learn. It's not you see it and then you stop. Finally, that's where we stopped. And let me just stay there. You're not going to learn fast. Aid yourself to learn at a good speed, and we'll all move at a speed we will be happy together with. Number functions is what I'm going to just look into briefly, and then I'll also get into text functions, and we're going to learn some very interesting things shortly. Okay, so when we talk about number functions, there are functions that help us to do a couple of things. Most likely descriptive analysis, at least at the basic level. When I talk about number functions, these are things that help us to do descriptive analysis. We're going to see that shortly. So what are those functions I'm talking about? sum function, count function, min function, max function, average function. What else? What are the functions? Let me go to our number functions. Let me just look into that. I'm just going to talk about a few very important ones, and then we can always uh, improve on that going forward. Okay. So recently used ones, a couple of them average. I just want the ones that relates to number counts. After count, the max, sum, what else? Max, mean, count, average. Let's see more. I just want to see if we have anyone. Okay. Then let's see maybe something like sum if, where conditionalities are coming into the conversation now. Average if, and of course, count if. Okay, good. Now, we've seen some, but I'm still going to go through it very quickly so that we have a good understanding of that. The whole idea, like I mentioned in the last class, is to make you learn Excel like WhatsApp. Uh, we're not going to make anything look bigger than it is. And if anything is already big in your thoughts, we need to bring it to as small as that software you use for communicating with your loved ones, which is WhatsApp. So we'll keep it as simple as possible. There's no complication around here. Now let's see what I'm talking about. I will just create one small data set. Maybe I could even refer to, yeah, maybe let me just take something from here. Then I will introduce some other new guys into the picture. So I put this basic data set here, and then so the name of the pupil, the age of the pupil. I also need some very important information to advance, like let me picture that this was a case of a competition they came for. So because it's a competition situation, let me just cut this and put it somewhere here for now. Cut is Control X, by the way. Okay, you can right click and cut also. I highlighted through the range of data. Let me do this again so we can understand. I want to take this from here and then put it maybe somewhere around there. I'm not so sure where it will fit in, but I want to take it away from there. So I can highlight through by dragging through. We saw that in the last class. I can also highlight through by holding my shift, click the first one, hold your shift, and then use the arrow key and go down gently. If you are a very slow person and you love to do your things calmly, it's also good. I love people who take their time. Don't try to be a Superman or do it like you see in the movies. There's no need for that. Just take your time. Slow and steady wins the race. Don't try to be, don't rush the whole thing. No need for that. Speed will come over time when there's confidence. Don't aim for speed at the beginning and make costly mistakes. It's unnecessary. Okay? Take your time. Okay? Now you right click on the thing. So okay, I just showed you another way, and a faster way that some people who don't like to disturb their keyboards so that you don't wear and tear it unnecessarily because you have 1 million records. You now start doing like this. No need for that. Just click on the first one, hold the control and the shift, and tap the arrow key down. And Excel will do the job of highlighting through everything there. So I will cut with a Control X, so I'll just right click and then go to cut because I will move it from there. Now I want to put it from somewhere around here for now. I think I should put it here. Let's just put it. If I need to move further again, I'll do that. And I can right click again and then paste. Good. So coming to this place, I was thinking about round one. So I assume they came for some kind of competition. Round two, round 2 score. I just want to put round 2 there. And the round 3. Okay, so I have round 1, round 2, round 3. I'm thinking that it will make more sense if I had this country just beside here before all of this round talk. So what do we do? In a situation where you want to have some space between age and round 1, because you want to maybe bring country back to that place, you want to create an allowance for another data to come, you can right click on where you are right now. That's one way to do that, and say insert. When you click on insert, this lovely dialog box comes up. I must also stress something about reading instructions and when you see pop-ups. Very often, students are scared of pop-ups. Or people, internet users, the average person out there is scared of pop-ups. I don't know why. They don't like to read the information there. Every pop-up is an error in their mind. Every pop-up is, oh my God, wow, maybe just get out of here immediately. And then they get out. If you're one of such person, I'm sure you'll be smiling while I'm saying this. So what you need to do is to learn to read instructions and assimilate them without fear. As a data scientist, you should be a type that is always interested in the nitty-gritty of things, and not a person that look at things and then you're very quickly looking for how to run away from something you don't understand. Take your time to make sense of it. And if you can't make sense of it, get the words of that thing and type it in Google. Most likely there's somewhere on the internet, on the World Wide Web, where some other person with the same confusion as yourself has put the same information. That will inform the search engine to take you to pages on the internet where such conversation is going on, and you will get clarity. I'm saying this because going forward, you're going to see things will pop up, dialog box that will come up while you're browsing through something or working on the system. Excel is returning an error, or some software you're using is returning an error. When you see errors, read them, understand them, and then take the necessary action to know whether you're going to click OK, cancel, or next, as the case may be. Let's go to insert again. What do I want to do? I want to create a space that will allow me to put country data here so that I can have the rounds on the other side. So what do? I can tell Excel is telling me, what do you want to do? Do you want to shift cells right? Do you want to shift the cells down? You want to enter an entire row? Do you want to introduce an entire row? Or you want to introduce an entire column? The implication of saying shift cells right is, I'm telling Excel, please, make do with what we have here, the arrangement as it is. But just help me, can you help me shift this round 1 a little to the right so that I can have space to bring another column there? So it will shift it, okay? Or I can say, please, can you help me introduce an entirely new column? And it will do that by introducing an entirely new column to the left, in this case. Either ways, it will solve my problem right now because I just clicked and I selected the first option with the shift to the right. And what it did was to push this column now, this place I did the highlighting from, it pushed it. If you notice, it also pushed country away from its legend, from its guys. That's what it has done. If I wanted to do a cleaner job, I'll undo this one now. I would have simply said, okay, Excel, I'll highlight everything here and say, my idea is to shift them a little. I want to shift them one step to the right. So I haven't highlighted them. I'll right click. And then I go to insert again and tell Excel, please shift these cells to the right. You see what it did this time? It moved the entire thing all the way that it factored all of the spaces I have taken, and then it moved everything to the right. That's different from what I wanted, really, because what I could have done would have been Excel. Okay, you see this entire column. I wanted to shift it to the right, and because of shifting it, of course, it will shift every other one that is by the side. So I'll right click on it, and then I'll go to insert and tell Excel, okay, help me shift it. And what it has done this time, it shifted both the column and everything underneath it. I mean, both the label, which is round 1 and whatever it is, it shifted them and shifted everything around it. it's good you understand the difference between shifting and inserting, because I undo now. I'm going to insert this time. I just did undo, which is Control Z, to take it back to the way it was. Now, if I wanted to just insert a new column there, I've just right-clicked, go to insert, and tell Excel, please help me insert an entirely new column. And it will insert an entirely new column with the reference where I am right now. It will insert a new column here. And then, of course, push all these other ones to the right. So you see that it's a new column it is brought in there with reference to where I requested. If I come to round 3 and I say, Excel, please help me insert an entirely new column, just right click, and then I go to insert entirely new column. I say, okay, it's going to create a space, an entirely new column to the left, where I can maybe put another information I want. Of course, I'm not interested in doing that. I'll undo that. I also want to undo what I just did. A smarter way to solve a problem like that, if you want to insert, would just be to click from the column identifier. Round 1 is on what column? F. It's on column F. Click on column F, right click, and just click insert. And Excel will understand, oh, it's like it wants to insert a new column. Do that, and then it brings that. It doesn't bring that dialog box. It just goes straight to the point. Similarly, you can introduce a new rule by clicking on the place you want. And if you right click and say insert, Excel will insert a new row above where you selected. I am on 7 right now. If I say insert, you'll notice there's a new row now above. That new row will take the label of where I am right now, which is 7, and it will push the other guys down. Okay, let's undo that and get back to the business. So now we're back to what we wanted to do. I'm going to just highlight, Control Shift down to highlight everything here, cut it. Control X will cut, come back here, and Control V will paste. Okay, I want to move a little faster now. The rudiments, always important. That's why I take my time. When my speed time comes, I'll believe that there will be speed ready. It's like the warm-up phase when you have an athlete preparing for a competition, a footballer for a match. You don't just take them from the cold weather and tell them, I think you should jump onto the pitch. That guy is not playing well. As a coach, you would have observed that somebody's not doing well. Hence, you tap the other gentleman and say, start warming up. What we're doing now is warming up. Soon we'll get on the pitch. I hope we'll be well warmed up for the activities on the pitch. Okay, now we have the data, the biodata of these students or these pupils. We have their age, we have their country, we have all the information about them. So I want to bring in some fictitious records. By the way, what is this thing about? I just want to give my data set a name. So notice what I'm about to do. I want to highlight the range of cells above it. Notice as I highlighted through, it also showed some signs around here. Then what I want to do is I want to merge all of these cells from D4 through what I4. I want to join them as one. And there's this instruction at the top here that says merge and center. What does it do? I've been using it a couple of times now. It does what combines and centers the content of the selected cells in a new larger cell. This is a great way to create a label that spans multiple columns, just like what I want to do now. So I click on that. Now bring in the title. The title in this case, I think it could be, what will I call it? Let me just call it Google International Pupils Chess Competition. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So if I like, just to put some kind of difference around there, I could put a little shade of, let me see, stick with my blue around the place. This is what I'm doing right now, is formatting my cell. The whole idea of merging it, putting some colors around there. Also, I'll click it, make the cell active. You don't need to double click and start highlighting the whole thing before it works. No, the moment you click on the cell, it's like saying, hey, Excel, I want to do something to these guys, to all the data in there. If you observe now, that big cell has a name. On the name box, you can see it's now called D4, because I merged from D4 all through I4. But the name of the big cell now is taking the name of the first cell in the series of cells I merged, which is what? D4. So by clicking on D4 now, I can do a couple of things from the what? From the formatting options available on my tools bar. Let's take our eyes to the font area where we can make use of this, this font tool called Increase Font. I love to use that instead of always going to click to find what I want. That also does a good job. But sometimes I just love the fact that I can just easily tap to increase. If I don't like it, I tap again, it increases it just to the size I'm okay with. Similarly, you can use this decrease font to also decrease the size of the fonts. Don't expect me to start talking about all the tools on this software because I'm not going to do that. I know it's a waste of time. Most of time, with most learnings that people may have done earlier before now, you find out that some guy opens a new software and starts telling people, aha, this one is this, use it for doing this. This one is this, use it for doing this. Do you think anyone's going to remember that? They're not. So what do? We create scenarios that will allow us to introduce the core tools that you need to use. And then as you advance on the job, what you need the most is the confidence in the use of the software. The rudimentary understanding that is needed to allow you to become confident in terms of how to manipulate the software to navigate your way around it and explore even going further. That's what you need the most when it comes to learning any technology. It's not just about Excel, whether it's Power BI, whether it's Python, whether it's SQL. Get comfortable first. Just like you come into somebody's house and then the you get in there, they start saying, that's a table, that's a remote control. I don't think you're going to be comfortable. When you come, you relax, and I turn on the television and we are catching fun. And over time, while we're laughing, I'm like, please help me get something from that. That's actually the table, in case you don't know. That's our shelf where we keep our wine. Okay? Please get some wine for me. We enjoy the wine and we're talking again. I'm like, please, can you get me the remote control? Johnson, in case you don't know, this is our remote control. This is how we use it, I think I'm becoming bored with this station. I want to go to the next one. It gives you more relaxation. It takes away the whole tension that comes from, oh my word, this place is complex. We need to take that feeling. Once you conquer that feeling, you will learn this software, and our speed in the coming days will be so impressive. Speed, from the instructor's perspective, is not success. But when speed is coming because we're all carried along, then it's success. The idea is not for us to run through this thing and then we finish. And I ask, well, have I, after I covered everything? No. The joy will be that we covered everything. And the we factor can only come when the foundation is solid and we're all carried along. Please, I need you to understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. Let's go on. I'm going to fill in some fictitious data. Maybe before that, let's also do some lovely formatting here. So I want to do something deliberately. I could easily highlight through all of these guys, and then I'll go to the fill and maybe give it some lovely color. Use another color this time. Maybe I should use a darker shade of blue. We're going to learn UI, UX, getting to know colors and all that. It's very important when creating designs. See, I click on this. And then I changed all of the font colors. White is already selected. You just put white there. And that makes it look really good. But now see something. Let's undo what I just did. Control Z, Control Z. Let's imagine that I did it for one. I put the color, the fill color as this, blue. And then I changed the font color to white. There's a feature in Excel that is called Format Painter. Format Painter. What does it do? It says what, like the look of a particular selection, you can apply that look to other content in the document. To get started, what do? The first is to select content with the formatting you like. The second is to click on that amazing tool called Format Painter. And the third is what? Select something else to automatically apply what? The formatting. He went further to say something. He said, for your information, to apply the formatting to multiple places, what should you do? Double click Format Painter. Let's make it happen. Let's do it for one first. So this is what I want. I love what I have done here. I want that to also apply to this. I want that to also apply to this. Let me start first by clicking on this one. Click on that thing. What I'm saying is Excel, please copy all what I've done here, which includes the fact that I made the background blue and I made the text color white. I want you to do that for all of these guys. I don't want to start going through the stress of doing that for them again. Okay, so I'll just copy by clicking on that format painter once. Some of you have a problem with click and double click. Please note the difference. A lot of people are so used to double clicking when they should click. What did I do? I selected the cell that has the formatting I love. I clicked once, that is click. And then I'll come to the one I want to give that all of those properties I have copied now. Just tap on it. That's all. Now this one has a feature. If I love it, I can still do what? Copy all of this and then click. But if you recall, it said something just now that I can double click and then I can drag through and I can give it to the other guys. It said for your information, to apply the formatting in multiple places, do what? Double click format painter. And you noticed at this point in country there, I double clicked this guy and I just drag through. I did job for me. Okay, so press your escape key to release that thing that is showing around there, and then we can move on. Okay, what we're doing, what we're also teaching is formatting Excel sheets, formatting it to look good. Are we together? Please confirm to me if you're following this class, because we are using one stone to kill so many birds. You are my guest in my environment called Excel. I'm trying to make you feel at home while I navigate you through the amazing features this software has. That's exactly how I'm going to walk us through till we get to the end. So I'll walk you through, introduce you nicely, make you feel comfortable with the software while we're learning. We shouldn't be learning and feeling like it's a big deal. We should learn and feel like we're catching fun. A situation where the learning start looking complex, somebody's busy there with a hinged forehead, trying to, hey, what did he just do? No, then it becomes a daunting task. So even when you refer to the video later, take your time. The fundamentals is critical. And that's why we need to make it as informal as possible. Let's increase the throttle a little. So I'm going to put some figures here right now. I'm assuming this chess competition, the score could be between 0 and 100. I don't know whatever the score is. So let me just put some fictitious data now, and then I'll populate it accordingly. If you're doing this task later on, make sure you put the same thing so that we'll all be on the same page. Okay, 32, 66, and then 93. We have 55, we have 61, and we also have 84. For this Dockers, let's give 44, 65, 87. Okay, that's all. Good. Now, to implement some of those interesting features that I want to talk about in terms of number functions, I'm going to bring in these guys into the space now. I'm going to bring in the function. We're going to implement the sum function. So deliberately, I'll write their names there so we know the functions we're dealing with. I won't put the equal sign because I'm not trying to invoke its functionality. I just want to reference. I just want to talk about it. Come to think of it, I should use self-referencing. Maybe I use absolute referencing this time. Put the equal sign and click. This is the guy I want to show at the top there. So I'll lock it so that in case anything changes somehow, it will still remain there. See now, we're introducing what we learned previously to do this. So I just click enter, and I'm showing sum there. So what we want to do here is a sum function. Now see another sweet thing. I can just copy the format from this round 3, click that thing there, and then just give it to this guy, and everything feels good while we continue. So what do I want to do? I want to do the total. I want to use the sum function to calculate the total score that this student, John, had in all of the rounds of this competition. What do? We put the equal sign this time. Don't forget, whether you're writing a function or you're writing a formula, the equal sign is saying, hey, Excel, I'm about to request your help using your inbuilt functionalities. Actually, I need one of your function. In this case, the one that is SUM. See the litany of other functions it has there. So if I select the one, if I observe Excel has highlighted any of them, I could press the tab key on my keyboard. I simply say, yeah, that's the one I want. And then when I do that, Excel will give me the options available. When I say the options available, I mean the arguments. Every function has arguments. And when you refer to the intelligence of this software or any software that helps you to solve programmatic problems, the intelligence of the software is a feature that guides you on how to use the functionalities of that software. Looking at the intelligence, it is giving me instruction. It says what? Put the first number you want to sum, and put a comma. Put the second number you want to sum, and put a comma. And put the third one you want to sum, and put a comma. If you recall in the last class, or the class, I think, yes, that was the last class, when we're talking about this, I said, yes, we can do that. But imagine if you have so many, functions, so many numbers, you're dealing with over 100,000 records, and you want to sum them up. Will you keep doing that? It's likely you damage your keyboard before. That is if you don't also go to the hospital for help before you are done with 100,000. So what do? You can use a cell range option. That means I want to sum from here to here. I want to sum from cell G6 all the way through to cell what? I6. I want to sell from cell G6 to I1 million or whatever. Depends on whatever it is I'm dealing with. So let's get to what we're doing now. So I can type it or just click on the reference and it will get to what I want. I want to sum here. This is what I want. G6. Notice if you get the reference right, it would automatically highlight it. The simple, smart way a person will do, sometimes I like to always show you the crude way, the manual way. I love those crude tools very much because the only way you can appreciate automation is if you have used a crude tool before. I don't know if some of you that have lived older than myself that are in this class would understand. If you were those type that used to send letters those days by handwriting them, and now you're seeing the evolution that the world has enjoyed through technology, you begin to appreciate it, you love it more. But if you're those type that never wants to know anything about manual before going to automation, you will never really understand and appreciate what is going on at the background, how well you've evolved, and the advantages you're enjoying with the automation. Always learn the manual and the automation. It helps. G6 to that too is column. Help me sum up the range of cells from G6 to what? I6. When I close it and hit enter, it does the job. Now this thing I've just done with all the long talk could simply have been done another simple way. Let me delete that. Put the equal sign, write your function sum, and then just drag through or click on the first one, hold your shift, tap, tap. Excel understands, oh, this guy wants me to sum up all of these things. Actually, what he's talking about is from G6 to I6. I get it. And it does the job. Okay? What we did here, the referencing of the cell in there, is that relative or absolute referencing? Somebody should help me quickly. G6 is a reference to a cell. I6 is a reference to another cell. Is this relative referencing or absolute referencing?
Relative.
Good. What's that again? Who spoke that? Mr. Adetitu. Seems like you're the only one in this class. Do we have shy students in this class? Or you want me to start calling names? Huh? I don't like one-sided class, to be honest. If you want to get the best of me, you have to be participating in the class. I don't want one man class where I'm having only one student that is excited about speaking up. I love to hear your voice in the recording. Please, whenever there is something like that, especially the ones I need very quick answer, please, I even love to know that 3 people clashed while calling the answer. And then As time goes on, there are situations I will make the rule very clear. Please make sure you indicate by raising your hand before you answer this question. When I get to that point, that means I have a class that is bubbling. The students are sharp. They are ready to do the job. And if you don't put yourself in the process, you participate by watching, you will finish and just realize you did data analysis class, but you're not a data analyst. I'll refer you to this class very soon. Some of you that don't want to come out. So now we click on this, and then because we are referencing relatively, it means naturally what looked like a disadvantage when we were talking about relative referencing earlier will become an advantage, because if I drag down, it will also intelligently reference all the other guys. This time it's saying that from G7 to I7. At this point, it's saying from G8 to I8. At this point, it's saying from G9 to I9. And at this point, it's saying, of course, G10 to I10. This is the amazing power of absolute referencing. We can see the awesome power also. Oh, did I say absolute? This is the amazing power of absolute, of relative referencing. I beg your pardon. Control Z. This whole thing that happened here is the job of relative referencing. And what happened here is what? Absolute referencing. So I use absolute referencing to call what is already written here. I brought it here. And I use relative referencing to come inside the arguments of the function sum, so that I can effectively do what I have done once just by dragging through, instead of going through all the rigor of having to do it all over again. This is where you need relative referencing. Let's speed up the whole process now. Let's come to count function. You can lock it. If your keyboard is like mine that sometimes misbehaves, it may not lock, but mine worked nicely now. Guess what I did? I pressed the function, that is the FN key, that is close to control on the left part of your keyboard. Hold down FN and press F4. The moment you, after clicking the equal or typing the reference you're talking about, the moment you hold down FN and press F4, the dollar will automatically append itself nicely around the A and 6 respectively. Okay.
Excuse me, can you repeat what you said?
Okay, I said you hold the FN on your keyboard, function key FN is at the lowest part of your keyboard. You'll see FN close to control, CTRN, and also close to your Windows button. If you're using the United States keyboard, I'm sure you should be seeing exactly what I'm talking about. Hold the FN and click F4 when you have done the reference. Let me do this again. Let me do what I just did here again. So what did I do? I clicked here. What do I want to do? I want to show count here, but I want the referencing to be absolute. So what did I do first? I clicked on the cell, put my equal sign as if to tell Excel, hey, I'm about to perform something that will require your help. Each time you put the equal sign, you're saying, Excel, I need your help, please. I'm about to do something. And then you click the place you want, in this case, reference. If I leave it at this point, it will be relative referencing. Oh, yes, it will work. But I want it absolute. If I put enter, it will still work to show me the count. But I want this thing to be absolutely referenced. So I'm telling you that absolute referencing means what? Putting dollar before A and dollar before 6. But I also mentioned, if you recall, that if you do what? If you hold the function key on your keyboard and press the F4 at the same time while holding, you hold both, it will put that dollar key before the A, dollar sign before the A, and another dollar sign before the 6. This time, it means the reference that is allowing this thing show count that is written here is what? An absolute reference. Are we together? Are we together?
Yes.
Good, good, good. Now let's continue. Let's do that count. Now let's bring in count function to work. So I put my equal sign. Why I'm putting all those things at the top? I could have easily just said addition here. Then I'll say counting and all. I want us to know that we are covering the functions we listed. Okay? We're going to exemplify all of them. Let's move on very quickly, please. So I'm going to put the count function now. Count. What do I want to count? I don't know. If I want to count numbers, if I want to count the number of rounds they took part in, of course, that's what I want to count in this case. Let me make that the count. I want to count how many rounds did each of these players take part in. It's obvious. The answer is 3, we know, because they did round 1, round 2, round 3. But if I just want to count this, the number of times they had a score. So technically what I'm still doing is I'm counting this range of cells that shows round 1 result for John, round 2 result for John, and round 3 result for John. The beautiful thing about Excel is once you have done it effectively and it works for one, it's as good as you have done effectively, and it will also work for others. If I hit enter now, I don't need to make this absolute, please. This has to be relative so that when I'm dragging down or when I'm copying the formula down to other cells, it will also do what? Conform with the referencing of the cell, meaning the referencing would also tally with the other ones going downwards, okay? So this can also work going upwards, depends on where you started from. If you start from down here and then you want to drag up, it will work. If you start from up and you want to drag down, it will work, okay? So click on the first one. You can hold this little node there, or the anchor point at the lower left corner of your cell. Let me zoom in nicely into the place so that we can be very sure what we're doing. And then you drag down. You notice, of course, they all took part in 3 rounds. Okay? What does the count function do? It's used to enable your count, to count the number of occurrences. If what you're counting is numerical, then you can use the count function. But if you are dealing with maybe a situation where you want to count maybe the number of participants that took part, and you want to count based on their name, you'll use another function called the count A. In the last class, I talked about that count A function, and we saw that the class, I think that was the last class when I introduced you guys to all the stuff. Okay, count A allows you to count what is not numerical. Count will allow you to count what is numerical. So the same way I'll click, copy the formatting I've just done, and then give that formatting to the count so that everything can conform nicely. Let's do the next one. The minimum score, we want to see the minimum score. We also want to see the maximum score. Let's do this very quickly. Put the equal sign, click on mean. While it's there, hold my function key and press my F. Or my, my function key didn't work this time. If your keyboard is like mine, that sometimes it gets too cold because of the weather and starts misbehaving, and maybe you tried, instead of showing you, or instead of locking the thing, it brings out something else like a projector signs, which mine just did now. You can just do your thing manual to avoid any confusion. That's how I always tell people, learn how to drive both manual and auto so that you won't be embarrassed. Okay, so you put the equal sign. We want to find the minimum score that John was able to get in the range, or out of all the rounds, which was the smallest score he had. So when we get for John, we automatically get for Musa, for Peter, for Sarah, and for Dorcas. So let's do that very quickly. How do I do that? There's a function called mean, which we can see there already. So when you open it, the argument stipulates you should specify the numbers delimited by comma. But we are also aware that same Excel says you can also specify the arguments, in this case, by using the range, instruction. You could say from here all the way to here. So that you can write manually, or you could just drag through, because we don't, this thing is not that much, just 3. You can drag through, or you can click on the first one, hold your shift alone, only shift and move, and that is still going to do the job. Okay? Anyone that works for you. You can also click on the first one, hold shift on your keyboard, then use your mouse to tap the last one. It will still do the job. Okay? Click the first one, hold shift, tap the last one, it does the job. The interpretation is that you want to find a minimum in a range of values between G6 and what? I6. Close the parenthesis or the bracket, as you may want to call it, hit the enter. And it tells us that the minimum score that this gentleman had, or this little boy had, is what? 65. Click that, drag all the way down, you have your job done. Very simple. No stress, no hustle. As you've done for one, you've done for all. You can verify. See, 44 is the minimum for Dockers, 55 is the minimum for Sarah, 32 for Peters, 54 for Musa, and of course, 65 for John. Let's continue. The next I want to see is the average. So let's get the average score with my equal sign to the average. I don't want to waste my time testing whether my function key will work. If your keyboard is still very healthy and strong, use all of those shortkeys. It will save you a lot of time and it will avoid unnecessary confusion going forward. Okay, so then of course you can put your equal sign and bring in a function called max. I'm sorry, average. I just did minimum. I was supposed to do maximum before average. Sorry about that. So let's take away this and then bring in max. Okay, the maximum is this one. Click on it. I want to lock it because I choose to make it absolute because going forward, I don't want a situation where anything changes. So put your equal sign, write the max function. You can see how simple it is. Okay, specify the range. Use any of the style you feel comfortable with. Just make sure you do what works for you. And then you get a max here as 88. You drag down and see the max for all the others. Let's do the next one, equal sign. What we're doing is we're working with number functions. We're working with number functions, okay? With the equal sign, we're going to the average. These number functions come in very handy when you're doing descriptive analysis. We're describing some of those very critical statistical parameters that would help us talk about the results of the scores that people had in the game for each of the participants. Okay, we're able to talk about it, describing it like analysts. What we're doing is still basic Excel, but the beautiful thing is because we know where we are going, it becomes a lot more convenient to talk about the big picture while we're here. Okay, with the equal sign, put your average. Want to find the average, and then because the range of values is still from here to here, close the bracket, hit the enter sign. This is the average score that John had at 77. Drag all the way down. Don't forget our coloring. Let's make it good. So don't forget, click on the first one, double click, and hooray, drag through, and it does it for the multiple. The beautiful thing about what we are doing is, interestingly, we are able to also exemplify what we did in the previous sheet, which is on referencing. We're able to see all that come to play while we are also trying to do this. Let me talk about something here right now. You can see these guys having 68.333, 0.666, point that. I just wanted to just one decimal place or two decimal place. So I can highlight the range of values from top to bottom, and then I just go to this place where I say decrease the decimal, which means what? Show fewer decimal places. Everything is there for you. There's nothing that is magical. You can look at it, you see the description, it even tells you what it does. So how do you do? Click. It takes away one. Click again. Click again. Click. I said I want just one. I'm okay with it now. So instead of just leaving that one as 77 and the other ones having decimal places, let's put 77.0 as the average score for this guy, and of course the other ones nicely arranged accordingly. Are we together? Are we together? Now we're at a point where I want to show some other things. I want to show some other very important metrics that will allow me exemplify certain things. Let's say, for instance, I decide to change these nationalities to maybe just 2 countries, or maybe 3, just 3 countries. So we have Nigeria, we have Ghana, and we will have maybe Canada. So I'll use my power to change Dorcas's country from UK to Ghana. He has become a Ghanaian going forward. So now, doing that because I want to be able to count or to do things based on certain things. I won't be able to do things based on certain things. I'll explain now. So I'm just going to put another small table underneath here because I'm coming to these three functions: sum if, count if, and average if. I want to be able to exemplify that before we wrap up today. So let's see that. What do I want to do? I want to be able to see sum if, average if, and count if. These are functions that are going to perform descriptive analysis, of course, only when certain conditions are met. I can say, please only sum the values or some of the values of help me do a calculation of something for only people or only participants that are from a certain country, or for only certain things that satisfies a certain criteria. Only when it is less than this, only when it is greater than this, only when it's equal to this, I want you to calculate for me. In that case, I should be able to know, maybe I want to see the cumulative score of, by country now. I want to see how the country is fared. So I can have something like Nigeria. I can also have Ghana. And I want to see, of course, Canada. So I know we have three countries here. We have three countries here. And so if I want to do maybe things like, I want to find out how each of these countries performed in terms of their total. Of course, when I say total, I'll be leaning on the sum. We want to see country performance now. So by total, let me write sum there, sum if this time. That's what we're going to be using to do that. Okay, by total, we'll be using the sum if function to calculate the total. Maybe I should better do it this way. The total, then I'll leave some space and just put sum if, then I'll write total, because I want you to know that what we're doing here is going to be done using the sum if function. Total. Then I also want to find the average that this country had. So we're going to use the average if function to find out what. Let me expand this column so that it can accommodate what I want. That is going to do average. I don't even need to write, I need to put this bracket around it so somebody doesn't confuse it for another thing. These are just labels at the top, okay, to help us understand what we're doing for future purpose, okay? So you can remember easily and connect what you're doing to what is going on, okay? And the last but not the least is to have a count. The count of the number of participants each of them had, or the countries had. We want to be able to perform some kind of, task based on conditions. So you can easily see some statistical insights into certain things just by specifying what you want, putting the query along the lines of what you already have. So let's see count, and then of course we just want to count there. Okay. Okay. So now let's do that quickly. Let's see how these functions can be used. It's very simple. There's no need to be frightened about it. In the next 15 minutes, we should be able to exemplify that very quickly. The first one, using the sum if function. Put my equal sign, and then I'll write sum if. That's a new function we're introducing now, and it asks for three arguments. These are called arguments. Look at the intelligence of this software. The intelligence of Excel is showing you exactly the things you should provide in the order you should provide them. It needs the first as the range. The range is, what am I looking at? What am I looking into? What do you want me to do for you? That's what Excel is asking me. What do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to look into to solve this problem for you? Then it says, okay, within that place, what is the criteria? What do you want me to look out for? And then, of course, the final place is the sum range. So what I'm going to tell Excel is, Excel, actually, what I want you to do is, I want you to look into all of these countries. That's for the range. I can lock this. I pray my function key would work well. If it doesn't, I'll have to rely on the other guy. Oh, good, it did. So I have Fn and I pressed F4. Automatically see the way you put the dollar nicely around F6 and F10. My comma. This one is because my keyboard is faulty. It should work anytime for you. My keyboard is a little cold right now. So in your own case, it shouldn't be a case of thinking, unless your keyboard is also as problematic as mine right now. Okay, so it shouldn't be a case of, I don't know whether it will work or not. It should work if you hold Fn and F4. To do what? Make the reference absolute. That's just what I've done. Now, the next thing it says is criteria. I'm trying to tell Excel, please, look into this place for me. And what am I looking for? What do I want? Nigeria. I'm trying to say Excel. Look into that place for me. And if you find the country, Nigeria, then I need you to do something for me. If you find Nigeria, then go to this place where I have the total score of the Nigerians. Or go into this place where we have all the total scores that has been attained by participants in this competition. And referring to only the ones that are Nigerians, I will need you to total the whole thing for me. So I'll highlight the sum range this time. The sum range is the area that contains the values that should be summed up. Okay? I also need to lock that. So I hope this guy will do the job for me. Unfortunately, he didn't do this time. We'll try it again the second time. Seems like it's really sick. So let me just manually do my lock. So I will click, lock the first J, lock the 6, lock the second J, and lock the 10. So, okay, when I've done that, I can close and I hit the enter. When I hit the enter, what it has done is this. It has looked into this place and it only added the students that are Nigerians. Do you want to confirm that? The first Nigerian is what? John. John had 231. The second Nigerian is who? Peters. Peters had what? 191. If you add up 231 plus 191, you'll get what? 422. Are we together? Are we together? Don't forget, let's look at this thing again. The first parameter was the range. The range is our talking points. Excel, I want you to sum only if a certain condition or a criteria is satisfied. So to start, I want you to look into the area. The bone of contention is country. The bone of contention in this case is what? Country. And I said, Excel, please look at the countries we have here. So I highlighted the range of countries from F6 to what? F10. Then I went into the next. I said, Excel, that is the second argument, which is criteria. If you find this country called Nigeria, so I clicked, instead of typing Nigeria, I could have easily typed Nigeria in a quote here, put double quote, write Nigeria inside and close the quote. But why do that when you already have a reference here? And I need you to also observe something. I did not lock Nigeria. The reason is because I want to be able to drag down so that it will go to Ghana and then also go to Canada. Once I've done this thing once, I don't need to do it all over again. The only two parts I locked were the two arguments, range and what? The sum range. The range is the area we need to look into to decide from. We want to look into countries. And what should be the basis for deciding? The criteria. The criteria, Nigeria, I didn't select Nigeria from here. I picked Nigeria still from my table around here. I picked Nigeria. So I'm saying, Excel, look in there, where you see Nigeria, go into this place and pick only those values that are for Nigerians and do what? Add it up, then give me the result. That's what it did. That's exactly what it did. Now I've done for Nigeria. I don't need to do that again. I just drag the damn thing down there. It does the job quietly for us. Look at Canada. Do you have any other person that is Canadian there apart from Sarah? Sarah is the only Canadian. Hence, you have 200 and you see 200 here. For Ghana, we have what? Musa and Dorcas. We see both of them. We see their scores. We see how it's done that. Very simple. Let's do the next one very quickly. The next one is the average if for the equal sign. I write average. Even if you write it in small letters, Excel knows what you're dealing with. It would handle it accordingly. Okay. So average if, similar fashion. In a similar fashion, what do? The range. Specify the range. You can click the first Control Shift down to do a quick highlight of what you want. Then hold my function key and then press F4. Oh, my world is in a good mood. And it worked nicely. Put my comma there. Then the next is what I specify the criteria. Of course, I want to find the average score of all the people, average score, or the average total score of the participants are Nigerians, right? Or the average score in all the rounds for participants that are Nigeria. So the criteria here is Nigeria. I don't need to lock that one because I'm going to drag down. I need that parameter to move freely down. And then the next is going to be what? The sum range. The sum range is the area you should look into as a basis for doing the average. Since I'm dealing with what they call it, with sum here, it will be smart for me to still work based on this because even if I should go highlight all of this, it will still do the job. But why waste our time? It will only find the average of the two values that are for Nigerians in this case. We have it to find the average of the score of John and the score of what Peters. Is that average we will get here. So let me lock this before I forget. Function F4. I don't really know why it always works the first time and the second time it becomes a headache for me. So I'll just do it manually. That's why I always say know how to drive on any kind of engine. Okay, then you hit enter. And there we have it. The average score is 211, which is nicely done, dragged out there. First, you can see that for the Ghanaians, and then for the Canadians, you see their score nicely also. The last one is the count, which is the simplest of all. Ade Tutu has his hands up. I want to hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I just have an observation. Why don't we use the columns for average? Why don't you use the column for average? The one after max that we've gotten before.
Oh, well, that's another one. Well, to think of it from the other perspective, if you say you wanted to use a column for average, maybe you would end up with the average of the average score. That's what you will get. It's like saying the average of the average score that has been attained by all of it depends on the perspective you choose to look at it. I am looking at the average of the total score right now. But if you choose to look at the average of the average score, then it makes sense. It depends on the direction you want to look at it. Okay. But the most important thing is you already know what to do. If you want to go for the average, go for average. If you want to go for the total, in my own case, I want to see the average total score that's been acquired by Nigerians. Okay. So Nigerians, Ghanaians, and of course Canadians in this case. Okay. So that's a good observation. Very good one. Very good observation is always good. It shows he's following. It shows you are in sync with what is happening. Ask questions rather than make assumptions because your assumptions might be wrong. So always ask questions, okay? Thank you very much, Mr. Adititu, for that. Let's continue to the last one because we're almost out of time, which is the count. So the count if. Did I write count there instead of count if? Let's quickly correct that. That's supposed to be count if, okay? So this is also count if, okay? Oh, count. This is just count. We're counting. I think I should write that in capital letter just to follow the sequence as I've been doing with the others. Count. Okay. It's always good you are methodical in what you do. Don't just do things anyhow and say, I just felt like doing it. And then you do one anyhow in one corner, you do another one the way you like. I say, after all, they understand, you know? Try to always follow sequence, create patterns. Invent your own patterns, but make sure you're consistent. It shows how professional you are in your thinking. And let's do the last one. Put your equal sign, and then you say count if. And this time we just have two criteria or two arguments, I beg your pardon. The first is the range, and the second is the criteria. Since we're working with the count if function, I may just choose to lean on, maybe I can still work with the same column I've been talking about, which in this case, there's no need to specify. When they say the range now, they're talking about the place you want to look at, and the criteria will be what you are looking out for. You are looking into country, and you want to say, please help me count the number of times Nigeria appeared. That's exactly what we're trying to do now. Count if it is Nigeria. Count the number of times Nigeria appeared in this data set. And that technically means the number of times or the number of Nigerians that are inside this data set or that took part in this competition. That's exactly what I'm trying to find now. So what do? I go to the field for Nigeria. The place they say range, I'll click the first, I'll just highlight everything there. The range is saying look into all the country field. Okay? Look into the country field. Let's lock it. Unfortunately, it didn't work this time also, so no need wasting my time, my keyboard. I will not even bother myself going forward trying it because I don't want to stress. And it's always good that I'm even doing it manually so that helps to always keep it in your thoughts. That what is he doing? He's trying to reference absolutely. Okay, that's important. And going forward, I'll also know when it's absolute reference, and I can either use function F4 or I can also do it manually. The second argument is the criteria. And the criteria in this case is what? Nigeria. When I do for Nigeria, I don't need to lock that. I hit enter, and it tells me it sees Nigeria twice in that array. The array or the range of values between F6 and F10. In that array, it was able to count the occurrence of Nigeria twice, which also means that we had 2 Nigerians, 2 Ghanaians, and of course, 1 Canadian that took part in this Google International Pupils Chess competition. That brings us to the end of our class today when it comes to working with a number of functions. In the next class, we will talk about text functions, and then we will take the journey even further and begin to see an interesting thing. I usually like to explain concepts by referring to relatable examples like the one we did here. In the next class, we're going to most likely already start a journey towards learning how to use text functions to clean our data sets, to do some very interesting things going forward. So just to make everything look good, I'll just use my format painter, double click, and then hooray, give you the same thing, make it as good as possible. Always make sure that everything you do conforms. I think the guy is still there thinking, I want more. Okay, I just Control Z and I press the escape key. When you're done with that multiple, press the escape key on your keyboard to say, oh, I'm okay now. I'm done with the format painting. Can you let me be? Press the escape key on your keyboard. Now I'll release that. So that's about it for today. I didn't have enough time to look at the assignment I talked about in the last class. You've done it, well done. If you've not done it, try to do it. Make sure you have your sheet looking like this. In the next class, I hope we can use the first 15 minutes to go through what we've done. And the whole idea is to hold you accountable for your learning. Okay? That will be about it from me today. No room for questions. I hope everything is clear because my time is up. Do have yourselves a wonderful weekend ahead till we see you again next Saturday. Goodbye.